Hey everyone. So in honor of my recent trip to Myrtle Beach to meet my nephew and spend some time with my husband's family, I wanted to do this week's weekly wisdom on how to prepare and plan in terms of travel and fueling along the way. So let's get started here. So travel nutrition tips. These are things that I like to implement when I'm traveling. And so being I just did this recently, I thought, hey, let's bring it to the table. Let's share some things and kind of get creative together. So things to think about when traveling. First off, planning ahead. So thinking about depending on how far you're traveling, if it's international, especially if you're traveling for competition, thinking ahead of what the time difference is, whether it's 3 hours from coast to coast, or it might be 9 hours different if you're traveling internationally. But think ahead of when that flight is leaving and what your meals are going to look like on that travel day. So, for instance, our flight left in the middle of the night. We had a red eye traveling over to Myrtle Beach. And so I had my meals for the day, but I knew I wasn't going to be sleeping super great on the plane. So I wanted to pack with some stuff. We had a layover in Philadelphia and we didn't actually land in Myrtle Beach until noon that next day. So I started thinking about, okay, what can I bring with in terms of meals, in terms of snacks? Sometimes if I have, say, a 9 a.m. or an 8 a.m. flight, I will pack breakfast with, knowing that I probably won't be ready for breakfast when I initially wake up. But by the time I get through security at the airport, I'll have something with me and I won't have to rely on airport food. So it just really depends, but thinking ahead of what that looks like, what the time zone difference is, because the best thing you can do when you're traveling, especially for competition, is starting to align your eating schedule with the time zone that you're transitioning to. So planning ahead is the first. Once you've identified what your travel day is going to look like in terms of nutrition. So this is specifically focused on, I'm hopping on a flight. What is that travel day going to look like? Think about what meals you can bring with. So for me, when I travel, one thing I really like to do is typically pack a sandwich or a wrap of some sort, because that kind of helps hold me over through that travel sequence. So one of my favorites is doing a tuna wrap or a turkey wrap. I'll add in some veggies. I'll put the protein in there. I'll wrap it up. And then usually I'll put the sauce in a separate Ziploc bag, because if you add it into the wrap, it gets kind of like gooey and mushy. So that's a pro tip. Add it into a little plastic bag. Then you can just kind of break off the corner of that plastic bag and squeeze it into your wrap. Same with sandwiches. Turkey sandwiches are great to travel with. The thing you want to think about, though, is how long those foods, because there's perishable foods with the protein in there, how long it's going to be out of the fridge. So usually if I'm bringing something like that that's kind of pre-made, I already have the tuna in the wrap. I want to make sure that I'm eating that fairly quickly within the first couple of hours of traveling and not letting that sit in my bag getting warm, especially if you're in hotter climates. A workaround of that is you can bring with those little flavored tuna packets and just have your wrap along with you. You might not be able to add in the veggies and some of those other things that might be perishable if they're not refrigerated, but you can easily make that wrap on the go. So other kind of snacks that I really enjoy bringing with traveling, whole fruit sources. So apples and oranges are really great. They hold up really well in your bag. I usually pack with all sorts of snacks in my backpack and usually come home with more snacks than I definitely needed, but it's always nice to have something, not only on that travel day, but once you get to where you're going, having some kind of backups available to help complement your meals away from home and snacks away from home. So whole fruit, sometimes I'll bring a banana, but it usually gets smushed or it gets really brown. So thinking about those more hardy fruits, usually apples or oranges are my go-to. You can even bring with, I've brought with like sugar snap peas or carrots. Those are pretty durable to kind of bring with. Again, you want to make sure that you're eating those fairly quickly. You're not letting them sit in your bag for multiple days and being mindful of that. But that can be a great like airplane travel snack. Trail mix is wonderful. Beef jerky, protein bars are really great for having on the road. Also, like dried broad beans or dehydrated garbanzo beans. Those are really great. I recently found the Bada Bean, Bada Bang, I think they're called. They're like a dehydrated broad bean, usually flavored of some sort, and that can give a little protein kick as well. If you're relying on airport snacks, usually there's Greek yogurt available. This last trip, I was able to get some hummus and some pretzels in the to-go boxes, string cheese. Sometimes they'll have hard-boiled eggs. Those make for some great like protein-rich snacks that are a little bit more filling than some of those more pre-packaged Chex Mix, things like that, that are maybe a little bit less balanced in terms of those macronutrients. So some things to think about. They also typically have the Core Power shakes available at airports. So if you're needing a little extra protein to kind of complement your snack, that's a great way to add it in. And then the third tip that I have for today is keeping hydrated. So I don't go anywhere without my water bottle, but especially when you're flying, it's really easy to get dehydrated on those travel days. So if you're flying to competition site or you have training really close to the point of landing, it's so important. And just in general, really important to keep hydrating through your trip. So don't forget a water bottle. You always have to dump it out before you go through security. But once you're through, most airports have water bottle filling stations. And that way you're not buying water on the go. It's easy to kind of fill up. And it's hard to rely on just that little cup of liquid that they're sharing at the on the airplane complimentary. It's important to have additional liquids in addition to that to keep hydrated. All right. So those are my 3 kind of key travel trips or key travel tips heading into these summer months. I know there's a lot of vacation, depending on your sport, depending on where you compete, you might be doing some traveling as well. So some things to think about if you're hopping on an airplane. All right. I hope that was helpful. One last thing I wanted to mention, I will be releasing a 10-week Fueled and Nourished Athlete program. It's going to start July 3rd is going to be the first, or July 4th is going to be the first release of education content. So what's going to happen is I have 10 modules all mapped out. It's going to talk about the different macronutrients, why they're important for you as an athlete. It's going to talk about pre-training snacks, recovery snacks, hydration, supplementation, building a performance fueling plan, in addition to how do I calculate my needs? What do I need as an athlete? So there's a lot of different topics. It's going to be really fantastic. And the 10-week modules will be released weekly, so you can complete those at your own rhythm. But every week we'll have a follow-up live Q&A, question and answer, with other individuals who are going through the program. And that's your opportunity to ask questions. There's a workbook that you go through along the way, and quizzes and homeworks and things like that to really help create your individualized fueling plan based on the information provided in the program. So it allows you to kind of adjust based on your needs and your sport. But if you have any questions along the way, that weekly Q&A will be our opportunity to connect and make sure that you're feeling really confident with the fueling plan you're creating. All right. So let me know, reach out if you have questions, shoot me an email back. I'd love to connect with you and talk to you a little bit more about the program. So have a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks.